Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who's joining me today?
Hey there, Heather. It's me, Jamie.
And Rhonda. It's
Hi,
not
Rhonda.
Samuel today. He's
I know.
out.
Yeah. So great to have you. We were talking before we started recording, and you were referring back to some of Jamie's nicknames.
Uh-huh.
Do you have nicknames?
Oh, yes. So my mom, growing up, she had a cousin. His name was Ron, and they called him Ronnie. And so ever since I was a little girl, she always called me Ronnie. And I
Oh.
thought, well, if you're going to call me, why didn't you just name me Ron and just do like, call me Ronnie. Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with Rondi.
Oh, no. So when I was on the road, you know, when you travel with people, like it just gets silly. So I had a couple of people, one who called me Ronders, and that kind of stuck with a lot of people. And then
when she says she was on the road,
oh,
this is, many people don't know this, but Rhonda was an international
Music sensation.
celebrity.
Yeah.
Yes.
She really was.
if you talk to the people in Albania, they'll call me a rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when she's on the road, it was like a tour.
Yeah.
It was 10 years of my life right there. So one of the other guys used to always call me Rondoni, and it just, I don't know
that's
if I
good.
look Italian or not, but
like
I didn't
Rondoni.
think it, but whatever. So
love
Ronnie, Ronders, Rondoni. Yeah.
The great
Nice.
Rondoni. That sounds like you'd be a magician or something.
That was the side act
Yeah.
on the road.
Right.
Yeah.
I was the pre-show.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you guys, we had a really fun day yesterday at church.
It was super fun.
What were your favorite parts? What all happened? Tell me all about it.
So I don't know. I think my favorite part was just the hangout time. I just
Yeah.
thought it was really great. The goal was, low attendance Sunday, do just one service, but then try to create a connection point. And I thought it was super good. I loved how many people stayed around. That was really great.
Even with as hot as it was.
Yeah.
I think opening up the commons allowed for people to stay
100%.
much longer.
Yeah. So it was just super good, and I think we've talked a lot about offering things that are not downloadable, so that there's more incentive to be a part of what we're doing here. Yeah. And I think an event like that creates that kind of sense that like I need to go and be a part of this thing, and it was just super good. I loved it.
Yeah, I think partly too, like having everybody in one service, just like even for the kids team to be able to serve together. And I think so many times our shifts passing in the night. And so to all be in one room together, I think was super great.
Yeah. It was really good. Did you have any adventures over in BK, Rhonda?
Yeah. So like the whole hot dogs, I mean, it was great. I loved all of that. And we opened up Treehouse because it was so hot. And for those of you who don't know what Treehouse is, it is an indoor play space.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we opened that up and families came in for about 20 minutes. And then one of the safety team members came over to me and said, I think you're going to need to shut down. And I asked why. And he said, because a kid peed on the play place. So I walk in there and it's literally dripping from one level to the next. So,
Well, I mean, the kid was having so much fun.
who
They didn't
wants to
want
stop?
They didn't want to stop
That's
long
right.
enough to go to the
Can't
bathroom.
do
that.
Yeah.
And you might miss your place.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. There's only one slide,
lot at
so that's
risk.
important.
Do we
That's
want to
right.
do we want to call out the family?
Oh, well, the thing is, I don't even know who the family was. I think they were already gone.
They were stealthy. They're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yes.
Let's get out of here.
Yes. But I think the best part is that like my body wasn't going to fit up in there. So we got Stephanie Sanchez, who is one of our interns, and she is now a full-fledged intern because she went up there and actually cleaned it up.
Right.
You're in duty.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
That's totally an intern job.
Yeah, it
Sure
is.
is. Sure is.
So good. So you guys, did you do anything else fun this weekend, or do you have any big plans for the 4th?
I have zero plans. Zero, none. I have.
Tell the truth.
The truth is, I have an all-staff meeting on Thursday, and I have a message that I have to read on Wednesday. And so when I get a day, when there's a holiday on a Monday or early in the week, it is very difficult for me to take a full day off and still get done the things that need to get done. So
Yeah.
I started working on one of those two things yesterday after the hot dog cookout.
Extravaganza.
Yeah. I started working on message prep, which I rarely do on a Sunday, but I only spoke once yesterday, so I wasn't as
Yeah.
Spent.
Depleted.
spent.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was able to start on that. But yeah, I want to do. I do want to do something social, so we'll see. But
You do?
yeah, I'm not antisocial.
No, I know. What do you want to do?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would.
Go see some fireworks, maybe.
I don't like crowds.
Oh, okay.
Oh, see?
See what?
But I would like to get together with some friends,
There's a
maybe.
guy.
You know,
Yes.
have
Yes.
some food, some
That's right.
beverages, swim, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, do you want to go to the fireworks? No.
No, not that. Not that much social.
Just a
Just a little
mini
social. A mini
right?
social with a handful
Yeah.
of people, not with thousands of people. Yeah.
So if
So
anyone
it's gonna
wants
be
to
like
invite
a-
Pastor Jamie,
Exactly.
right?
Part work day, part some kind of fun day. Yeah.
Right. But also just know if you have too many people coming to this shindig,
Don't,
he's not
It's not
coming.
happening.
don't invite me.
Or he'll
Right.
come for a little bit and then
And then
he's
he'll leave.
out.
Yep.
100%. If there's a large gathering, I'm out early. Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I didn't have fun while I was there.
That's right.
So
And your
yeah,
parents got your fill,
I
and then you're done.
then I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Rhonda?
So in the parent household, we're kind of in the camp mode. So if you all don't know, we are leaving for camp in 2 weeks from this Sunday. So we are super excited about that. So we've kind
This
of been in
past Sunday?
this
Yeah.
2 weeks from this past Sunday.
Yeah.
The 16th. And so we're super excited about all of that. So this weekend was a little bit more of rest time, cleaning house, doing laundry, like those kinds of things to get prepared to go. But we are doing some fun things on the 4th of July. We're actually going to go see The Sound of Freedom. Have you guys heard about that?
No.
It is the story. It's Jim Caviezel plays Tim Ballard. He is a he's Homeland Security special agent who devoted himself to fighting sex trafficking. And so it tells the true story about his journey in that, going into the deep jungles of Colombia and rescuing people.
Wow.
And
Where is that playing?
it's all over theaters. Actually, I think it starts today. I think it opens today.
Huh, I hadn't even heard of that.
Yep. So Sound of Freedom.
Very cool. Are you going to fireworks?
We do have some friends who live right on like Martins Point in Elizabeth River, so we can usually see about 15 to 20
Yeah.
different things. So we can
that's
actually
kinda
enjoy
fun.
that.
Yeah.
But it's a crowd, Jamie.
Right
so,
from your backyard.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
some of it we do get to see. We actually got some last night, so that was great. Right across the water. It was awesome. It was great. So,
Yeah, I heard a bunch yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
We found out last year that our neighbors 2 doors down do a huge fireworks show.
Oh, really?
Usually the Saturday before the 4th. So whatever that date is. So this year, since we've gotten to know them, they actually texted us and let us know that they
Oh,
were
how
doing
cool.
it. And so yeah, we had some friends over on Saturday and got to watch all of that. But it's like a pretty significant, like they get permits and all this stuff from the city.
Wow.
And it probably is at least 20 minutes long.
Wow.
It's
Holy cow.
pretty awesome. So I'm like, good. I don't need to see any more
Have you
fireworks.
seen the video that's kind of gone viral of the people setting off fireworks in their driveway?
No.
Oh no.
So everyone's kind of seated in the front lawn, and then they go to light them, and they don't
Doesn't go.
launch,
Goes
and they
bad
just
quickly.
start exploding everywhere.
Oh,
and within
no.
seconds, the yard has been vacated, and everyone's running for their lives.
Yeah,
It's quite
that
hilarious.
sounds awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm
yeah.
glad that didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fun, and we're heading to the beach after work today, and just
that'll be good.
to hang out for the evening and tomorrow, and
Nice.
then we'll be back. So yeah,
Love it.
pretty chill. You guys, we are continuing still our Bible reading challenge, and we're in Acts still, which I just love being in the book of Acts. So, have you guys anything sticking out to you in the last week or so from your readings there?
So we just got done reading, spread over 2 or 3 days, the martyr of Stephen, which is just such a powerful account of his life and the end of his life and the boldness of his witness as he's about to be killed for his faith. And I don't know, that whole scene where the people set their coats down at the feet of Paul to go and, kill Stephen. I don't know. There's just something super powerful. I remember the very first time I read that and realized that the Apostle Paul was, part of that. I don't know. I don't know why that stands out, but I can kind of remember the first time I read that and made that connection. But yeah, just I don't know. That's just such a powerful passage to me, and his not only his boldness, but then at the end also his pleading for the people who were killing him, that God wouldn't hold their sins against them.
Very Christ-like.
My goodness,
And he radiated.
yeah, that's just so powerful. I don't know. That's to me. That's been it's. I think it's been 3 days that we've read it, but it's been really, really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rhonda, any other things sticking out to you right now?
Yeah, Acts 4:13. It's where Peter and John were brought to the Jewish council, and verse 13 says, "When the council saw the boldness of Peter and John, and could see that they were obviously uneducated, non-professionals, they were amazed and realized what being with Jesus had done for them." And I just really sat in that moment. It is amazing when we spend time with Jesus, like Stephen, right?
Yeah.
Like he radiated the presence of God in his life. And so I just loved that as I sat within that, like uneducated, unprofessionals, God uses us
Yeah,
to be able to do his work. But it's because we're being with him. We're spending that time with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So we got an email from a regular listener.
yes,
this
and
week.
a regular submitter of questions.
Yes. And this is what he says. Hello, MFM crew. I have 2 questions, but I don't know that they fall under the category of what the what?
You went dead there a little bit, Heather.
I know. It adds to the charm, Rhonda. The questions I have to do with the sermons and YouTube.
Yeah.
Since we are a transparent church, I
Yep.
thought you might answer on the air. We are happy to do so. Hopefully, this won't pick at any intra-office wounds. I really hope we don't have intra-office
No.
wounds.
I don't think we do. I am unaware of
Yeah.
any. If
Yeah.
we do.
Jeremy, do we? I don't think so. Okay, Jeremy says no, so no. Number 1, for Sunday services, what was behind the decision to only show the actual message on the YouTube channel? Maybe I'm missing that the worship music is also shown, but separately, ? And number 2, am I imagining that the messages are shorter than they used to be? I felt like they used to be about 40 to 45 minutes, and now they're around the 35-minute range. Thanks, as always, your faithful listener, Raymond, from Kimberly and Raymond.
So I don't know the answer to the first question. I know it. I mean, I remember talking about it, and I know that it happened. That the worship, also known as the warm up to the message, was left off, but I can't remember why.
Well, Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong. I will attempt to answer this.
Okay.
But some of it has to do with algorithms and the way that YouTube is set up and how people get their content. To separate the two is actually puts us in a better viewing position to more people.
Oh.
Also, there are lots of kind of research and studies and stuff that show that people only spend so much time on the interwebs viewing things. So the shorter amount of time that we have, the more, again, it like populates in people's like channels and like what they're watching.
Yeah.
So by separating the two, we're able to have a higher increase of viewership, and people will stick with it a little bit longer. And so you can find, just so you know, you can find our sermons and then also worship sets that we do. And there's lots of other content. If you go directly to the Believers channel on YouTube, you can scroll down our channel page and see messages. You'll see worship sets. You'll see kids content, stuff for all ages. And then you'll also see some other specials that we've done, like interview style things.
Yeah.
So it's really beneficial to actually subscribe to our channel and go there to watch it instead of just watching what populates in your feed.
Yeah. And not every worship set is there, correct?
No,
Right.
not every worship set.
So the answer to the other question is there is truth to the observation, Raymond, but here's the truth. The truth is the goal has always been 35 minutes for the message, and we just don't always hit it. So a lot of our message times are 40 to 45. Sometimes the 35-minute is the message, and then it takes 5 minutes to go over next steps and closing and whatever. So sometimes that elongates it a little bit. But the reality is the longest we can go is 75 minutes. That's the absolute limit of what a service can do. But our goal is to do it in 65.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
So we've been a little bit better disciplined over the last couple of months. That's not 100% true because there's been a couple of those weeks that it's gone long. But yeah, we're doing our best to be disciplined around the 35-minute mark. Just a little insider talk on this. So like the messages that I write are generally speaking 3,200 words to 3,300 words. And if I have a message, and it happens sometimes, if the topic is a little bit more complex, sometimes it could be 3,600 words. And I know, I just know that one's going to go a few minutes longer or whatever. But as a general rule, the goal is a 35-minute message.
Yeah. And part of that is because we're doing more than one service, and so we have to turn over our whole space and get ready for a whole new crew to come in. Plus,
Next
Rhonda, you can talk to this. Just, I mean, for those of us adults that are just sitting in the auditorium and could hang out there for a really long time, that's not necessarily the case over in Next Gen. So
for sure. Yeah, it's really important that we have that extra time because we need to make sure, number one, that all kids are picked up. So if you're a parent, please pick up your children right after service is over. But it helps us to reset the rooms and then really pour into the next team before we're ready for the next service.
Yep.
And that's really important for us. We want to be able to give everybody our best.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. So Raymond, I hope that answers your questions.
Yep.
And thank you for them. And if you have any questions that you have on your mind, whether it's faith related or you just want to know about how and why we do things around here, we are transparent and open to answering them on the air. So you can send those questions to madeformondays@believerschurch.org. And with that, let's get into our message from yesterday.
it was so good.
Jamie,
Thanks.
We are still in unquestioned answers. This is week 5.
I had someone say to me, they said, "Man, that was such a good message. If that's what you do after not teaching for a month, you should do that more often." And I said, I wrote the message before I was
Before you
gone.
left.
Yeah. They said, in that case, cancel all of your travel plans. So yeah. I wrote this
There you
message
go.
a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. So we're this is based on the book by Jeff Myers,
Yep.
although we've said it's very loosely based on that book because
Really only titles.
right.
Yeah.
So the cliche for this week was this world has nothing for me.
Yeah.
And so
Which I don't even think that's the cliche. The
Yeah.
cliche is really, this world's not my home,
yeah.
Yeah.
or I'm just passing through.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that was the title in the book.
That was the title
Yeah.
of the book. So so with that in mind, just kick us off, Jamie, and let us know, what does it mean to be not of this world?
Yeah, so we talked about this quite a bit during the What If Jesus Was Serious series on the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, we're citizens of heaven. So anyone who has placed their faith in Christ, they are adopted into the family of God, and we become citizens of heaven. And in that series on the Sermon on the Mount, we talked a lot about the kingdom of heaven values, and that we're to live by those values, not the values of the world in which we are a part of, which those values would be very different. So that's really this idea that we're, how'd you phrase the question?
Not of this world.
Yeah, not of this world. That's the gist of it. We are in this world. We are not of this world because we belong to Christ. We are members of his family,
Yeah.
his kingdom.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you read 2 Timothy 2:4 for us
Yes, I can.
again?
Give me a moment.
We'll
Sorry,
do that.
I thought I grabbed all the right
That's
things
okay.
with me, but I didn't grab that. So.
Yeah, and as soon as you get that pulled up, then I'll let you read it first, and then I'll read my
Okay.
question
So
about it.
Second Corinthians.
Timothy
Oh,
Second Timothy.
Sorry.
2, verse 4.
2, 4.
Thank you, Bible app. You're so handy.
So handy. Don't you have YouVersion?
Yeah, everybody
Yes.
should have you.
Everyone should have it.
Everyone.
All right, soldiers, don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for they cannot please the officer who enlisted them.
Yes. So you spent some time on this passage yesterday.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper into it. That's why we do this podcast,
Yeah.
after all. So, how do we hold the meaning of this passage, the idea of remembering we're here to please King Jesus and not man, while understanding that God is pleased with us because of who we are in Jesus
Yeah.
and not what we do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And the context, we always talk about context. The next
Yep.
couple of verses, he talks about athletes training to win a prize. Then he talks about hardworking farmers enjoying the fruit of their labor. So
Yeah.
he uses several different illustrations to capture this idea that as good soldiers of Christ Jesus, or hardworking farmers, or hard training athletes, that we are motivated to serve our King Jesus. And we don't do that. Yeah, I mean, the tension is, do we do things to earn the favor and love of God, or that's the skewed way of viewing that. The other way to view it is we love him so much, and he's done so much for us, that we're motivated simply because of his love for us to please him. And that's really the heart of it. And having said that, we are also the body of Christ. So we are the hands and feet of Jesus. And we have a responsibility to live out the teachings of Jesus in such a way that it makes, that his presence is still felt in this world, right?
The impact.
The impact of who he is still, even though he is physically absent, his spirit is in those who follow him. And so we are his representatives. And so, yeah, we have a responsibility to kind of reflect who he is to those around us. But we don't do it to earn grace or earn his favor. We do it because we just love him so much. I do, as part of my first 15, it's part of my second 15, because I do it when I get to work. But I've been for the last couple of months or so watching a video devotional by John Ortberg, which is Become New, I think is the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And I love it so much. And today he's going through the creation account, and today he was talking about how the creation account of Genesis is so different from creation accounts of other Near Eastern cultures, because there were many, many such narratives out there about how things came about. And he made it was such an interesting observation. First of all, most of the other ones have been lost to antiquity. So some bits and pieces of them have been found, which is interesting in and of itself, because Israel, never had a kingdom, never, it had a kingdom, but it never had they were never like a dynasty where they had, where they ruled large tracts of land other than their own nation. They weren't imperial in any sort of way. So they were a minor culture in the ancient world, and yet their creation account is the one that endured. And how interesting is that? But the difference of the two of the biblical creation account and all of the other ones is all of the other ones, the creation, their job was it was like this quid pro quo agreement with the gods. And so we would, provide shelter to God through a temple. We would provide food for God through sacrifice. We would provide, these things. And in exchange, the gods would look after us, send us rain, make sure that our crops grow, all of these things. And there was always this agreement, this transactional idea between the gods and creation in those creation account stories. But the one in the biblical account is different in that God created us simply because he loves us and wants to be in relationship with us. Yeah. And throughout the biblical narrative, God even says, do I have a need that you could possibly meet?
Yeah.
Of course not.
Right.
And if I had a need, I wouldn't even tell you what my need is, because you would be unable to meet it. And so I think having that as a backdrop to this idea of I'm a good soldier of Christ Jesus and whatever is an important distinction. We don't do these things because he needs anything from us. We don't do these things because we're trying to get something from him. From the very foundation of our existence, we were created simply as an object of God's love. And the only thing that we have to offer him is out of thanks.
It's a response to his benevolence.
Is a response to his benevolence. And in return, all he'll do is give us even more love.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a remarkable truth. And so, this idea of we're good soldiers of Christ Jesus who are focused on the task. We do have a task, but it's not about earning.
Yeah. I love that.
Pointing people to Jesus.
So if we embrace the idea that there's more to who we are than what we experience in the here and now, our perspective shifts. So how has your relationship with Jesus personally changed your attitude and habits with money and your response to suffering? And Rhonda, if you want to.
Yeah, I love this question because as I was processing through, I was just thinking about like the joy that comes from giving. And that's part of, like, Jamie, what you were just talking about, just the response that we have. And that's a natural, I want to give you everything you've given me so much. And I want to do that. I was thinking about just our church's ability to give. Like, I think of what is happening with camp in just a couple of weeks, and how many people, out of their love for Jesus and wanting to make an impact in the world, was able to pour thousands of dollars into 101 kids and students who are going to go be impacted and leave that, like, right, that deposit of Jesus is going to come with them. It's going to be there. It's going to change their lives. And then they're going to be able to come back and learn that too. Like, it's such a wonderful picture of wanting to respond back with everything that we have. As far as Jamie, did you want to talk about the money first or the suffering?
Nope.
So I love, I was thinking about that scripture in John 16:33 where he says, in this world you will have trouble, but fear not, for I have overcome the world. And it's such a beautiful picture from that to the 2 Corinthians 4:16 and 18 that you shared yesterday, that we have the hope. And so when we're in that suffering, we know that suffering is only going to refine us. And Jamie, you shared this in the podcast last week about that season in your life where you were almost like in that deconstructing mode, but that suffering and that pain, that working through that only made you better, and it helped you to understand that this is temporary, and what I am working for is the eternal kingdom.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just, there's so much hope in that. And it's temporary. We get to see the glory that will last forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me personally, I just think, everything has, honestly, everything has shifted because of that understanding. The building of my own little kingdom, which is what that's the focus of pretty much everyone's life, is you try to get through your life, you try to do it in the best way possible. You try to make it easy and all the things. And from a financial standpoint, I could do a whole, I could have other things if I didn't give what I give to kingdom work through the church. But then I think, with my understanding of who God is, and with my understanding of I am just passing through, and with my understanding of what Jesus taught of the investment of resources that last forever, it's like it's a no-brainer. It's such why would you exchange that for a temporary, moment of like pleasure in comparison? Right. It just doesn't make any sense. Right. So, it's so deeply ingrained in me that it's hard to even fathom what life would be like apart from that, because it's been just so impactful. And and I hope I respond to times of suffering and the like in a similar way. And as I said yesterday, like that mindset of suffering is redemptive. It has purpose and value, and it won't last forever, has been like the saving grace for so many through the centuries who have suffered so much for their faith. Even Stephen, we were talking earlier about Stephen. Like, how could Stephen face that moment with such poise and such clarity and such compassion? Yeah. It was because of his understanding that once he left, he would be in glory. Yeah.
When I was in Bulgaria, there was a pastor, his name was Pastor Pechev. And when we went into, it was right after the doors had really opened up in Bulgaria. And his heart and passion was teaching the kids Jesus. And he would do it underground. And then when he was found out and he was arrested, and they would torture him and all those things and beat him, and then they would throw him back out and say, now what are you going to do? And he says, now I go teach Jesus to the kids. And this over and over and over again. But he understood that it was temporary and that he was making an impact that was eternal.
Yeah. So powerful.
I love that.
Yeah.
So those are really valuable thoughts around the truth found in this week's cliche. Unfortunately, it's been dumbed down quite a bit and used to dismiss caring for things of this world. And Jamie, I loved your rental car and hotel analogies.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about the NPR interview that you referenced with John Hagee and just kind of give us a little bit of a recap maybe of what that was, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So I am a NPR listener, first of all. I love NPR.
So do I.
And I don't agree with everything that is talked about on there, but I like how they talk about most things. It's
interesting.
They do a good job of it. And I think it's With Good Reason. Is that the show with Terry Gross, I think, or something like that? So yeah, they were interviewing Brett Ehrman, who's a agnostic New Testament scholar, which is just kind of interesting that in and of itself. He's written quite a few books. He does not believe. He believes that Jesus was a historical person, but he does not believe that Jesus was God in the flesh. And many of his books are intended to disparage people of faith and Scripture. So that's his objective. That's the perspective that he has. And so he wrote this book on the end times from a Christian perspective, what Christians believe about the end times. And as part of the interview, they played this clip from John Hagee. And if you've seen John Hagee on television, almost every, I don't know if he teaches on anything else to his church. I have no idea. Almost every message I've ever seen the guy give is on the end of the world.
Yeah.
And apparently that church loves to talk about the end of the world. And so he spends a lot of time talking about the news and Israel and the wars that are taking place there. And he was talking in this particular clip that they played about how all of the world's events are all leading to this moment where Israel's going to be engaged in this war, which eventually will be Armageddon. And, a nuclear bomb is going to destroy everyone. And isn't it going to be thrilling to be, to be observers of all of these, events culminating into this, end of the age so that glory can be ushered in. And they go back to the interview and Terry Gross says, how could anyone say this is thrilling when we're talking about war and nuclear weapons being used? But John Hagee's perspective is, well, we're going to get raptured out of here, so we're not going to have to endure any suffering. So sorry for the folks who are left behind. One of my,
is there a movie about that?
Yeah, I think there's
just wanted to ask.
Lots of movies and too many books on a not very accurate biblical approach, but that's another story for another time.
Sorry.
Feel free to ping me with that. So it just struck me as I was listening to this interview, man, that is what the world thinks of Christians who talk that way about, I'm just passing through this, like it's interesting to me. I'm not a environmentalist, like a militant environmentalist kind of person, but I do find it curious that Christians almost universally are not at all interested in environmental issues. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is they don't think it matters.
Yeah. And yet, if we go back to the creation account, we were made to care for creation.
We were created to manage well what God has put in motion and appreciate what God has created. Yeah. So it's just interesting, and I felt it was good to get. It's one of the values for me of NPR. It's good to get the perspective of a non-Christian on a decidedly Christian topic, and to hear, this is what people This is how we're perceived.
Right.
Right.
And it isn't good.
It's almost become this just desensitized thing, like where we're claiming that we value life as people who are Christ followers, but then that like just disregards so many lives
Yeah.
with that point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, rather than be like
Heartbroken.
rather
for
than
all
be
of the-
thrilling that we're alive
Yeah.
during this time, why would you not be heartbroken that there are still so many people who have not responded to the gospel?
Yeah.
Which would be a far more appropriate response if you really believe that.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you described the different words in the Greek language for the word new, and you walked us through a couple of different passages. So etymology is the study of origin of words, and you mentioned context before, but why is it important for us to be concerned with word origins when reading the Bible and other texts for that matter?
Such a good question.
Yeah. It's important because, I mean, the Bible was not written in English. So, I mean, it's important to understand that. I mean, I think we all get it, but like there's, maybe we don't.
I mean, maybe,
I mean,
maybe not.
Some people actually
think
believe that the King James Version is
Right.
the only
It's the
inspired
only-
version, and
right.
it wasn't
Yes.
even written in the King James. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's also another topic.
So
for
that
another
was my
time.
eye roll.
Yeah, gotcha.
Sorry. Continue.
So yeah, the Bible wasn't written in English, and so the Bible has to be translated into English from these other languages, primarily Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, and words don't always translate perfectly.
Right.
There's nuances that get lost in translation. I mean, that's an expression that we use because it's a truth. Things get lost in translation. When I was learning the French language to live there, there were a lot of things that I would say that I would translate from English in my mind into French, and I would say them in French, and they didn't have the same meaning at all.
Right.
Things like I changed my mind. They don't say I changed my mind. They say I changed my opinion. And so when I told someone that I changed my mind, they looked at me like
You were insane.
I was
Right.
crazy. What do you mean you changed your brain? Which is basically what I said, So yeah, things get lost in translation. And in the Greek language, it is interesting that the word new, and this is just one word among, however many
Right.
words like this, but the word love, I mean, there's been lots of talk on that one. It's another one of those words. We have a word for new in English. It's new. And in the Greek language, there's at least two. I mean, I only looked at the two, but there's neo and kainos. They both are translated as new, although one means new in time. A better translation would be renewed or restored. Probably. That would probably be a better translation. But for whatever reason, the translators put the word new there. So, it's important to understand the meaning behind words. And we try not to do a whole bunch of in the Greek, I've been under pastors who do that kind of thing to try to be impressive in their scholarship.
Yeah. No, I think our attempt is to bring
But our attempt
context
is
to it.
is to bring clarity. And so for the sake of understanding, particularly on this cliche, to understand that the world as we know it is not going to be destroyed and recreated. It's going to be restored. It's going to be renewed. And all of creation struggles under this curse of sin and is waiting to be released, not waiting to be destroyed. I think it's important to understand that because it affects how we approach the world, the relationships, the situations that we have. If we understand that all of these things go with us, maybe we'll do better managing them.
Well, maybe we'll do what our next question is.
All right.
So
Yes.
our big idea for the day was renewed people renew their environments, which
Yes.
is such a good thought. So will you share N.T. Wright's quote? with us again.
That I have. Yes.
So good.
Yeah, I do love this. I do love this quote. Jesus' resurrection is the beginning of God's new project, not to snatch people away from earth to heaven, but to colonize earth with the life of heaven. That, after all, is what the Lord's Prayer is about.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, with that in mind, how do we make here better while we wait for there?
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. I had a couple different people tell me about another book. I referenced John S. Dickerson's book, Jesus Skeptic. Apparently, there's I don't have it in front of me, but an agnostic type person has written a similar book about the influence of the Jesus movement on the Western world and how profound an impact the followers of Jesus have had historically on our society, from everything from how we operate judiciously, law, government, culture, art. I mean, you name it. I mentioned education, healthcare,
Yeah.
The orphanage, the foster system, like all of these things have all been initiated by followers of Jesus. And the world is, we have problems, sure, but we are so. I mean, our world is so much better because of followers of Jesus and the influence that they've had on our world. And I spent some time yesterday afternoon just kind of contemplating this idea and thinking, what if followers of Jesus done, like historically, there's so much that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
What has been done recently by followers of Jesus that have made our world better? And there are things that we continue to do. I mean, we support, Oasis, and the good that we're doing is still being felt. And if the church were to withdraw from community engagement, not just believers, I mean, just the church in general, I think our society would be far worse off. I don't think there's any question. Most of the organizations that are working among the poor, the abused, the trafficked, all of those things, those are almost all Christian, at least have taken the initiative on those things. And so they would take a serious hit if the church withdrew. And I think that in and of itself is a testimony to the goodness of we are renewing our environments, I think. But what have we done that's been new that has made our world any better? And maybe you as a listener have some thoughts and ideas, and you could send them in. That would be great encouragement to me, because I couldn't come up with any. And in fact, most people, and that's why that John S. Dickerson book was written, he wrote it because the narrative of our culture is that Christians are making our world worse. And there's some argument to be made that we contribute to some of the divisiveness of our culture. There's no shortage of scandals around churches, exploiting people financially, sexually, all kinds of things. So I mean, there's an argument to be made that maybe Christians are making things worse. We're tax exempt as an organization. A lot of people want to take that away from churches because we're not contributing to the good of our community. I can see that. I can see that argument being made. So that book was written to counterbalance the cultural narrative right now that the church is a force for not doing good, which is tragic. That claim could even be made is a travesty. And I think there's some legitimacy that can be made, but the book goes through just historically and says, no. Like, the world would be so much worse off without the influence of followers of Jesus, which I do think is true, as I said. But I also think, boy, couldn't we do so much more?
So what are some of the more things?
Yeah, what are some of those? I'm not 100%. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think some of what I mentioned. Like the engagement that we have is so critical, and I think sometimes we lose sight of just how much good is done in the name of Jesus through those who follow Jesus. But yeah, what else? What else could we do? I think one of the things that we could do is we could engage our community and our culture in a more impactful way. I think many Christians have withdrawn and gone into their Christian bubbles, and it's one of my pet peeves, the parallel Christian universe. Like if we could dismantle that and just like really integrate into our community in ways that are helpful and not hateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you mentioned Oasis. I think that's one of the very strategic decisions that we made several years ago, was to not be like, we weren't going to prop up a food pantry within the walls of our church. We were going to partner with a local community effort to do that, because they do it really well. We believers are not equipped or able to be a domestic violence shelter, right, but we can partner with the Her Shelter and be a part of what a whole organization is already doing really well in our community. Same with Free Kind. Like, there's just so many things. I also think of just the ways that we've been involved in our public schools, and for families, I know that's a hot button topic in like public school, private school, homeschooling, but that's where most of our community families are, right? They're engaged in the public schools. And so as Christ followers, to be involved in those environments and to be teachers there, to be assistants there, to volunteer there, to come alongside, families' needs through the schools. Like, it's such a way for us to be, like you were saying, Jamie, just impactful in the places that we're already inhabiting, in the places that we already go. And instead of withdrawing from that, to press into it.
Yeah.
Rhonda, do you have any thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I was just saying like that. I think that's so important. And right now, I think part of what God is calling us to is to help diffuse so much of that.
Yeah.
Like just the conversation, just being Jesus. Like I loved that, the renewed, but the restored.
Yeah.
Like the restored creation, like we're here he is restoring us, right? He's the Bible talks about renewing our minds over and over. Like he is restoring us, and we get to go and be that in our communities, to watch other lives be restored, so that our like creation can be that, like that we can do that. And I think it's just it's so important to live in those moments.
Yeah. I do have, I have a thought, and it's going to sound almost trite, but what you just said, Rhonda, I think is so true. The source of the goodness in the influence of Jesus is Jesus, right? I mean, he is the source behind the renewal in our own lives and in the lives of anyone. And that renewal cannot take place without an encounter with who Jesus is.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that really does make a difference is when you invite someone to encounter Jesus.
Yeah.
And whether you do that, in a personal conversation with someone, or whether you're inviting someone to come to Believers Church so that they have an opportunity to encounter the one who actually can do the renewal.
Yes.
And I think sometimes even that, like there's the idea of sharing your faith has grown. Even Christians have a negative view of proselytizing.
Yep.
And yet it's the very thing that Jesus left us with. Go and make disciples of all nations.
Yeah.
And, we have to reclaim that value as something that is important. And so, in the church, an inviting culture, I think oftentimes an inviting culture that gets talked about in a church is done so in a very self-serving way. It's to make the church bigger or whatever. But as I said yesterday, God's dream for the church has nothing to do with the church being bigger.
Yeah.
His dream for the church is the renewal of the nation,
Yes.
really, and the renewal of our community. That's the dream, that the church would be the agent of renewal so that a city is reborn, a nation is reborn, the world is reborn. But that cannot happen apart from followers of Jesus investing and inviting people to encounter Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so one of the easiest things that you could do to contribute to the renewal of our environment right here in our own community is to invite people to come to Believers and be prayerful that they will encounter Christ themselves so that they experience the life change that maybe has started in your own life. And we do so not in a way of we're better than anybody, but in a way that we want others to experience the very things that we talked about earlier on about, the redemptive value of suffering and the understanding the great value of what comes after this world is done. And, we don't want to be, as I said yesterday, hanging by the exit doors, just waiting to get out of here.
Right.
We want to invest in the people who are here with us so that they too can experience the very things that we've experienced.
Yeah, so good. Well, that's all we've got time for today. We are back to our regular Sunday schedule this coming Sunday, so we have services at 9 and 10:45 for all ages. And until then, we ask you to share this out on all your social media places and invite someone to join you this week. Thanks for being here, friends. Go and be love.